Um, I will start with the usual thanks to the organizers of this extremely interesting meeting for accepting my proposal. It's been a pleasure so far, and I am pretty sure that this will continue. I am also aware of the danger of speaking immediately after lunch at such gatherings, and I will do my best to compete with the very persuasive devil of the siesta. My topic will not help very much, but I'll do my best, as I said. So I'm here to talk to you about a very singular manuscript. I would even call it a unique manuscript in its own. I bumped into it accidentally earlier this year while looking through the digitalized material from the Romanian National Library in a huge folder, very aptly and helpfully called Other Manuscripts. The manuscript, which you see here, is kept in the National Library, manuscript 3077 of the National Library in Bucharest, is singular because of its contents. It does contain some Latin texts. I will not speak about them here, but there is plenty of Romanian material, of Old Romanian material in it. There are gospel readings arranged according to the Catholic calendar. These are fragments from the gospel for all the Sundays of the year. Then there is a selection of psalms, the penitential psalms, and quite a large chunk is made up of ritual and pastoral texts, followed at the very end of the manuscript by a confession of faith. All in all, we're talking about 130 pages of Romanian text written by a single scribe, remarkably in Latin script, not in Cyrillics. We're talking about 1750 here, with Hungarian-inspired orthographic solutions. The Romanian texts are interspread with Latin. There's Latin in biblical references, ritual instructions, and liturgical material here and there. I tried to figure out where the manuscript came from because there was no information on it. There are two later annotations which attest the presence of the manuscript in Franciscan milieus in Transylvania, in southern Transylvania. It was owned by two identifiable Franciscan friars who died in the 1770s. But since I wrote initially I thought that this was the work of an anonymous Hungarian Franciscan friar from Transylvania, but since then I've done a little digging and now I know exactly who copied the manuscript. This was a multilingual Franciscan scribe and translator who was not a Hungarian as I thought initially, but Saxon, a German from Transylvania, from southern Transylvania, called Samuel Kapp. He lived between 1712 and 1767. He was born in Sibiu in southern Transylvania in a Lutheran family, converted to Catholicism, entered the Franciscan order in 1739, and was ordained a priest in 1742. He was head of several Franciscan convents in southern Transylvania, so he moves only in that area, southern, southwestern Transylvania. But most importantly, he is attested twice as a parish priest in Ilia, which is the place name attested on the title page of the manuscript, which says that it was made ad usum parochiae Illyiensis, for the use in the parish of Ilia. So he is there in 1750 when the manuscript was actually produced. He went there once again. He died in 1767, after which the manuscript came into the possession of the other two people who are Franciscans who are mentioned in the manuscript, and ultimately ended in Bucharest through a campaign of confiscation by the Romanian state in order to create a manuscript holdings for the National Library. And it's still there today. Samuel Kapp was described by one of his lay patrons in 1762 when he became head of a recently founded Franciscan convent. As he said, I asked for his lay patron, Andras Glatz, a Transylvanian Hungarian nobleman. He says, I asked for Franciscan father, Nationis Nostrae, of our province, I would say. Natio here means the Franciscan province of Transylvania. Linguam Saxonicam, Germanicam, Hungaricam, et Valachicam Calentem, who is an expert in Saxon, German, Hungarian, and Romanian. Ex residentia Fogarasiensi. He comes from the convent in Făgăraș, again, southern Transylvania. There you will see why southern Transylvania becomes important a bit later. He ended up as a parish priest in Ilia, where a Roman Catholic parish priest was reestablished by the army, which went there in 1748, 1749, following the official abolition of anti-Catholic laws and policies by the Transylvanian Diet in 1744. And they started the new parish around a church which was confiscated from the local Calvinists, who were partly Romanian speakers. So there was a Protestant Romanian community there, and this guy goes there and copies the manuscript. What is absolutely remarkable about the manuscript is that the gospel readings, 84 pages in all, come from a very unlikely source, the Orthodox Bible printed in 1688 in Bucharest, in Wallachia. So you have a Franciscan friar from southern Transylvania, Germanic speaker, going on a mission to Romanian-speaking Calvinists using the text of the Orthodox Bible published several decades before. What is even more remarkable is that the readings he copied were not left in their Cyrillic script, as in the source, but were transliterated from the Cyrillic script of the printed text and introduced by short contextualizing sentences composed in biblical style by Kapp himself. So he introduces them with sentences like, and in those days, Jesus said to his disciples, and in that day, Jesus did this and that. Those are his additions, but then he copies it from the Bible. He also copied a selection of penitential psalms. You see them here, 9 pages in all, again from the same source. So we have both gospel text and text from the Psalter copied from the Orthodox Bible printed in Cyrillic script. All of these were transliterated into Latin script by him. This is the unique example that I know of where we can check a Romanian printed text in Cyrillics against a transcription into Latin script made by a contemporary, a near contemporary. You can imagine the interest of this. This can teach us many things, among other things, how somebody who knew Romanian could be trained in reading both scripts and working with them. That's why I'm here today. Clear attestation of the missionary purpose of the compilation is the final Professio Fidei, which closes the manuscript, but also there is a similar shorter statement of Roman Catholic faith embedded in some of the liturgical material he's translated. These two leave little doubt as to the missionary purpose of this. And I have here a transcription. And this is what I was talking about earlier. He defines the church in this as Sfântă Apostolicească și Catolicească Biserica Romei, a holy Orthodox and Catholic Church of Rome. And to make things even better, if they could become better, there is not just the text that he transliterated from a known source, but a translation he himself made from Western material. This is a compilation of several ritual, liturgical, pastoral texts that he used there. I can tell you more if you're interested more, which has also appeared in Czech. It was also printed in Olomouc in 1736, for instance, and this coincides very well with the translation he made. He probably translated it from German, not from Czech. Now, what are the problems which I want to discuss? First, one thing that we can find in all this material is his practice of transliteration. Transliteration meaning simply that all of the text taken from the Orthodox Bucharest Bible is transliterated from Cyrillic into Latin script using a systematic and fairly regular grapheme to grapheme correspondence. This suggests that Kapp had received training in using the specific version of Cyrillic script used in Wallachia, Moldavia, and Transylvania to write Romanian before the 14th and the 19th century. And you can get an idea of how this looks like by looking at this image. I have in pink here the things that he didn't transliterate. So the use of the frontier at the end of the word, which shows that it was not pronounced. Those who worked with this knew this as a convention. So, but his transliteration is not always consistent. Certain Cyrillic graphemes, which correspond to Romanian phonemes such as sh, j, ch, j, ts, may receive a double or even a triple graphic representation in Latin script by using digraphs or trigraphs in his transliteration system. Cyrillic graphemes whose use was in certain contexts purely graphic, such as the word final frontier, the one that I talked about before, have no equivalent Latin grapheme, which shows that he knew the rule that it doesn't correspond to anything at the end of the word. This suggests on the one hand that Kapp was aware of and familiar with the traditional practice and conventions of writing Romanian in Cyrillics, recognizing instances when final frontiers had no phonetic value. On the one hand, his system of transliteration relies on existing traditions of writing Romanian in Latin script, developed by Romanian-speaking Calvinists since the 1570s on the basis of Hungarian orthographic practices. So he did not invent his Latin script. He took it from existing traditions. And you have here a table of correspondences. For instance, sh can be represented by a single S, but also by a double S, as in yeshira, they came out, or asha, or usha, the door. I suspect that he may have heard a stronger version of sh, an intense sh, and that explains the doubling of this. You can see the most remarkable here, for instance, is the depiction, the representation of ch, which can be either a combination, the fourth one there, which can be either a combination of a k followed by a s, as in fericit, blessed, or întor, but it can also be a trigraph, d, k, s, d, k, s, as in întorci, you turn back, or krčma, tavern, spelled like this. A second phenomenon that we can see is not simple transliteration, that is to say, making a graphic equivalence between two graphemes, but a phonetic transcription, that is interpreting the Cyrillic writing of the original and rendering it in terms of pronunciation and acoustic perception, as it were. So here, some of the graphic solutions present in his spelling of Romanian in the text he transcribed from the Bucharest Bible display a consistent divergence from the strict grapheme to grapheme equivalence. It's very clear there that it's not something learned automatically, but something that he adjusts in terms of spoken language. In such cases, Kapp probably resorted to interpretative phonetic transcription, establishing a grapheme-phoneme equivalence influenced by the specific pronunciation of the southern Transylvanian variety of Romanian he had acquired as his learned language, as his second language. This is certainly the case with plurivalent Cyrillic graphemes in Romanian, in the spelling of Romanian, such as one of the uses, ya, and then the one that doesn't show here, the yat, which could be used interchangeably with the value of ya. All these three could be transcribed as ya. He transliterates one of them with ya, but consistently with ye, in forms of the verb to be. Conversely, I'll show you examples in a moment. Conversely, even though in his Cyrillic script, Vorlage, so in the Bible, restricted the use of the back year to represent Romanian and of the other use to represent Romanian u, so the Cyrillic Bible is very consistent in limiting these two to a single value. Kapp's graphic representation of the central vowels is inconsistent, reflecting either his own acoustic perception or an existing graphic tradition of rendering Romanian in Latin script. So it's either the way he hears it or the way he learned it by using existing conventions. And you see here an example where you have in the first two lines the use transliterated as ya, a or ya, but in the word miluiește-mă in 3, and in the word este, it's transliterated as ye, not ya, even though it is written with the use. So he clearly relies on an understanding of the fact that there are several values to this particular Cyrillic sign, and they depend very much on the context. And I have here examples of how he writes for instance, with an e. He represents it with an e usually, ca să vază, căci să turburară. But he also uses a single letter for both the Latin, the Cyrillic character for and u. As in the example, căci slab sunt, where e stands once for and once for remarkably, in some cases, his representation of u does not use the e character, but the u character, as in his spelling of cuvântul here in this example, cuvântul with u, and he does the same thing for for which he uses o, as in văzu, văzu, he saw, as it were. And it's very interesting to note that he distinguishes between these two central vowels. And I think that here we're talking about acoustic perception. He perceives which is more open as closer to o, and u, which is more closed as closer to Okay, I'm going to rush through the most interesting bit of it, actually. So in addition to transliteration and phonetic transcription, we find instances of interdialectal translation. Kapp's Romanian text also contains indications of his limited competence in the Southern Romanian variety of the Bucharest Bible, so his original that he transcribed, translation, in terms of both diachronic and diatopic variation. He replaces obsolete grammatical forms in his source with ones current in the variety of Romanian he acquired as a second language, or hesitates when copying terms and forms that were probably unknown in the variety of Romanian he learned in Southern Transylvania. Dialectal features of the variety that he speaks can be precisely located using the text he translated on his own, so not the Bible, and I've located it in the western part of the Făgăraș area in southern Transylvania, where they appear occasionally replacing examples from his source. So he does interdialectal code switching here, and here are some examples. In the future form, the example A, the future form, his original has veți vedea, with veți, the auxiliary verb for the future, with the vowel e, veți. This is standard Romanian now. He writes viți vidie, which is southern Transylvanian. This viți is only attested in a very small circumscribed area in Transylvania. That's how I could pinpoint where he learned his Romanian. A very striking example is the word ziua, day, which you can see here is spelled in his example ziua, whereas he has zua. Zua is Northern Romanian. This is a typical Northern Romanian form and stands in marked contrast with the ziua of the Southern Romanian that he learned. And I'm getting very close to the end now. He also has troubles with some of the words that he finds in the Bible that at that point had become either archaic or were from a completely different dialect than his own. So he reads the phrase, John, his brother, who was in the boat with Zebedias, and he doesn't know the word for small boat, chin. So he writes the word as enchin with a capital letter, thinking that it's a proper name because of John and Zebediah who appeared in that context. Similarly, he finds the verbal form întorșu, întorșu-mă. This is an old Romanian perfect form inherited from Latin, which he doesn't recognize, probably because it's no longer used by anybody. So he copies întorcu-mă, the present, I turn around, rather than întorșu-mă, I turned around. There's also a noticeable trace of multilingualism. So his German background comes through what he writes. He uses a very peculiar form for the verb apune, to put, to place in the third person singular. Instead of pune, he, she places, he writes puine. And this is a typical Saxon learning Romanian kind of thing. It's known in Romanian linguistics as a sassism, Saxonism, if you want. And then finally, there are traces of a learner's idiolect. We can clearly tell that he has learned Romanian not to a very deep degree, but he approaches it very rationally. He creates plurals of words based on the singulars that he knows, but ignores the vowel alternances, which in Romanian happen between singular and plural. So inner root ablaut basically ignores it. So he creates the form groaznecile instead of groznicile, basing it on the singular form of the adjective groaznic. So in the singular groaznic, in the plural groaznec, rather than groaznecile rather than groznicile. The plural for preot, which in standard Romanian should be preoți, so with the iotacitation, in its text is preoti. Preot singular, preot plural, very rational, but not idiomatically Romanian. And the final example, he has the plural sărbătoarele from the singular sărbătoare, feast, rather than sărbătorile, as it were. This, I add towards the end of my presentation, is one of the most difficult features for all non-native speakers of Romanian who learn it because of these alternances. So I hope that I've managed to arouse your interest for this unique document, which allows us to see the ways in which a non-native speaker of the given language can try to cope with material that he needs in that given language. He can simply transliterate, relying on an existing system of grapheme to grapheme correspondence. He can phonetically transcribe, that is to say, interpret the grapheme to and translating it into a phoneme which may be influenced by his own variety of Romanian. And finally, he creates interdialectal translations. He is not a passive copyist in respect to the original he copies. He translates it into the dialect that he knows best. And I will end with this, saying that this is something that Romanian linguistics and Romanian historical linguistics specifically is still to discover. This is a phenomenon that was rarely studied in Romania because the Romanian nation state had this nice theory that Romanian is first one of the most unitary languages in the entire universe, or at least in Europe. And second, there are no major differences, and there were never major differences between dialects, such as to cause incomprehension. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with some version of this for your own languages. One of the good things about this particular manuscript is that it shows to us how untrue this is and how linguistic practice can knock on its head this kind of modern rationalization. Thank you for your attention.